I really like working with foam. And that's why I built this little foam cutter. I've got a Dremel motor tool, and I've got a little micro mark cutter, and I also have a bandsaw out in the garage. And the problem with these devices is the chaff that you get when you cut foam seems to float around in zero grav, and it goes everywhere, just makes a mess. Whereas a hot wire foam cutter does a really nice little job, besides the fact that it's quiet. This is just a little example I did here to show you some of the things you can do or make with your children or for your children or for your own amusement. It's a little template. Cut out a little heart and a little template out of stiff paper. And there you go. As I said, I like working with foam, and I have quite a few foam projects here in my studio. Model airplanes, flying boats, and other little devices. Before I go any further talking about this foam cutter or how to build one, because this one's already built, so it's not going to be a construction video where I show you step by step how I built it. In fact, what I'm going to do is show you the finished product and the items I used to finish it, where to get them, about how much it will cost. And one of the most important things in the foam cutter, of course, is the hot wire itself, which is a nichrome wire. And nichrome is stainless steel made from nickel and chrome, hence the nichrome. And rather than buy, a foot of it or so, or 2 feet of it from a hobby store, I purchased this from a Bass Pro Shop. It's 42 feet of stainless steel leader wire for fishing. It's 80-pound test, which is overkill, but it's what I usually do. My projects usually are overkill. So I'm going to save some stills of this little cutter at the end so you can get some detailed pictures, and I'll give you more information on where you can get the material, about how much it will cost and what you need. And if you don't have tools for cutting it, most of the home improvement stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, etc., even Ace, will cut this stuff up for you. This is a melamine. It's particle board with the melamine coating on both sides, which makes a nice working surface. And of course you'll need a power supply, for the hot wire, and there are a myriad of different power supplies available. You can build some of your own. You can use a heavy-duty train transformer. This particular one I happen to like is an Astroflight battery charger, which can either be operated on AC, plug into the wall, or off a small 12-volt battery. This probably being the safest way to go, 12-volt battery. In either case, whatever output you hook up to your hot wire, these are my connections down here, you want to make absolutely sure that it's DC. I'll say it again, DC, like the District of Columbia, not AC. There are a lot of AC variable power supplies. You don't want that, because if you touch this hot wire and you're standing on a concrete floor in your garage, there's a good chance you'll cook yourself. DC is what you want. Train transformers will have two outputs. They'll have an AC side for the lights and horns and whistles, and the DC side to power the motor. If you use a train transformer, be sure that you connect it to the DC side. Enough said on that. And you want to make sure all cases you want to wear safety glasses, and I'm going to give you a demonstration of why later on in this video. Having it to do over again, I would extend the base on my cutter right out to 16 inches, and that would let you set the throat at about 10 inches, which would give you a deeper cut. I mean, there's no increase in the cost. You're going to buy about a 4 or 6 foot piece of this particle board coated with melanite, and with 6 feet you're going to have all kinds of material left over to play with. The stand-ups over here are also a piece of hardwood that I got at Lowe's, similar to this piece that's laying down right here. Might have cost $1, $1.50. And it's held together with 1/4 inch bolts with wing nuts. I like the wing nuts because they're put them on with your hands and take them off if you have to. Although there's no real need to take it apart. It holds it nice though, and you can increase the tension if things loosen up. And a couple of L-shaped brackets to support it, because there is a certain amount of tension you're going to be putting on this thing and you don't want it toppling over. Use screws going into the wood on the side because they don't match up with the holes on the other side, so you can't go right straight through. And then I use nuts and bolts on the ones going down through the table. Put a center line on there just as a reference, and a 1/16 inch hole in the center for the wire to go down into. If you look at the tip of the spring wire that's coming out, you'll see that I've ground in a little groove to help hold the nichrome wire in one position. And we'll take a look at the underside and see what we've got here. That's a 6 inch, 1/4 inch threaded bolt. Just goes through the hole over there on this side. Doesn't have a bolt on it, doesn't need it. It's being supported. And once again with a wing nut over there and wires connecting it from there, bringing it over to the same side as you're going to connect your power supply to, and the other power supply going over here, and then soldered to the bottom of the bowl wire, which comes across here like that. I've got this little curlicue in here. That's unnecessary. And it runs down through the center. And what I did there is I took this piece of wood and I put it in my drill press with a countersink, and I ran the countersink down through the center just to create a groove so this wire could go down there. And when you clamp it together, you don't want it to be loose. You want the clamp to actually be able to bear down on it and keep it in one position. You see, I can wiggle this around over here and it's not moving anywhere. The other important thing when you work on one of these, you want the wire to be perpendicular, obviously, to the surface over here, and you want it to be perpendicular over here, so that when you make your cut, it comes out square, like that. Pretty much like that. It's not perfect. I got some information on here just to let anyone know who's not familiar with it that there's danger involved. This wire, if it happens to be on, should never be unattended, but you know, things happen. Don't touch it, it's going to be hot. And I also have a hookup that I use with one of my personal power supplies. It says, do not plug into wall socket, because if you do, that wire is just going to explode. but I have another power supply that I can actually plug into, and it's variable with a DC output. Once again, a DC output is what you want. Okay, here we go. Another thing you want to take into consideration when you're using a hot wire cutter like this is the reason you need a variable power supply is that a thin piece of Dupron foam like a meat tray from a store, or a thicker piece like this over here, or some even 2 or 3 inch thick pieces will require a different amount of heat for the wire to go through it. And the speed that you cut with is dependent upon the amount of current you send there. I try to set mine so the piece I'm working with, I don't want it to go flying through so fast, it's like a hot knife going through butter, because you lose accuracy. The other thing that happens is the wire heats up so much, the kerf will be much, much bigger than the diameter of the wire, maybe by even 5, 6, even 10 times. And you don't want that if you're trying to do precision work. You want a nice thin kerf. So, using this old 12-volt gel cell battery, which I don't know how old it is, but I can't believe it has any life left in it, but it does. And you can see that it is powering this AC-DC charger, simply meaning you can either plug this charger into the wall and use AC current to power it up. Don't turn them on both at the same time. Either use the battery or plug it into the wall. Or a 12-volt battery supply. What really works nice is a small garden tractor battery. You can get them for about $17, $18 at Walmart, and they'll last forever. All right, I'm going to turn this thing on. It's got a timer on it, which is also kind of nice. And we'll take a look at the amp meter. I know from experience that somewhere around 2 amps works pretty good for this foam here. Well, let's see if it's going to cut at 2 amps. We'll let it heat up a bit. And what do we got? Needs a little more juice. There we go. And see, that's a nice cutting speed right there. Slow enough for you to control. The kerf's not too thick. And voila, you're out. No little pieces flying around in the air, no chips, and actually very little odor. This wire is hot, so you don't want to touch it, and it takes a minute or two to cool down. So we'll reduce the amperage to 0, and then we'll turn the timer off. So now everything's shut off. However, the system is still being powered by the battery. We'll disconnect that. Now everything is off now. There we go. This is a piece of spring steel wire, piano wire. You can get it at Ace. I think Lowe's has them. Hobby Lobby has it. This particular piece is 11/64 inches in diameter. You don't want to get much heavier than that, because then you'll have too much tension on the wire, and you don't want to over tension it, because even at 80 pounds of test, that wire will not have 80 pounds of test when it's under load, because the heat will reduce the tensile strength of the wire. I've got this set right now maybe for about 20 pounds of tension on it, which is plenty. The wire is cooled off now, so I can pluck it. I don't know if you can hear that. Sounds like B flat. maybe A. So that's about it on this operation. And like I say, the little spring curl that I've got there is unnecessary. I just happen to have a bending tool that allowed me to do that, so I tried it. just a straight bend with the wire sticking up maybe about 45 degrees up so that you've got some spring in it to pull it down and tension the wire. I'll include a diagram of that to be a little more precise. Okay, what you're looking at here is the Cadillac of foam wire cutting power supplies. It's a 10 amp variable battery charger. I don't know, maybe 20 years. They probably went out of business because they made them so well you never have to replace them. But you might be able to find them on eBay or Bass Pro Shop or anywhere where they sell a high quality amp battery charger. I think this cost me about $30 when I bought it. It's probably doubled in price today, but well worth it. It'll power any hot wire you can come up with. So if you just want something to play during the holiday seasons or on a rainy day, sit around and cut out little templates from styrofoam meat trays or a piece of foam you find in a construction yard, or foam that comes in, including the EPP spongy kind. This little scroll saw foam cutter will do the job for you. It's a lot of fun. The kids can have fun with it if it's properly supervised. Make sure they wear glasses. You know, they know a stove is hot, so you want to tell them that this thing can get hot too. That's a dandy little device. There are as many foam cutters on the internet probably as there are flavors of jelly beans. So pick one that suits your needs. I looked around, I saw some commercial ones, they're very pricey, and I saw some homemade ones, complicated, and I want to deal with. My effort here was to come up with something that you could build just from local supplies without having a lot of power equipment. You do need a drill, some kind to drill holes, and like I say, if you don't have this, home improvement companies will cut this stuff up for you. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I have one more project which I will attach later on. And here we're going to cut a piece of 1-inch styrofoam using a little guide. Voila. We're looking at almost 2 amps at 12 volts. This is the Houston skyline that I downloaded off the net, public property, and I'm going to use my trusty number 11 X-Acto blade and cut it out, and I'll show you why later. Okay, the skyline has been cut out of that photograph, and I'm just testing it out on a piece of this 1-inch white foam. The next step will be putting in a background. I'm not an artist, so if you've got any talent, I'm sure you can do a lot better than this. I'm just giving you an idea of some of the things you can do, and I'm sure you can anticipate what's going to happen next. Stay tuned. Well, there's the almost finished project. Cut it out, and now we have a relief. Now the real artist would get in there and paint the sides of those buildings to catch the reflections off the sun and the sky. I'm not a real artist, so I'll leave the rest up to you. Just an idea of something you can do with it. Maybe you take a picture of your home, in front of your house, or your car, or something, and do a relief. Have some fun on a rainy day.